everybody, and welcome to International Stress Awareness Day 2018. Here we are again with one of our global experts, and today I've got for you Mr. Sean Waters. He's now in Joburg, South Africa, talking to us, and I'm going to introduce him to you because there's a whole list, but I will let him do a little bit of talking afterwards when I've done this, because he is the founder. He's, first of all, actually a really, I believe, a stress specialist. And that's important in everything that we are doing here for International Stress Awareness Day. We have somebody here who is really experienced. He's a man with a mission. He's the founder of the Stress Less Clinic, which encourages refreshing lifestyles, while being associated with, I believe, national and international experts. He's also the founder of Technostressology, which he will certainly talk more about in this interview. And because our theme of this year is, does high tech cause high stress? And I do believe, welcome, Sean. I do believe that you are one of the experts who can really talk about this subject. So welcome to you. And I want to just ask you if there's anything you would like to add, because this is a short little introduction. Is there anything about you personally that you would like to add to, to the audience?
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity of being part of Stress Awareness Week. I'm really excited because I have this passion to help people to understand their stress, be able to cope with it in the best way that they can. But, people come to me and they say to me, how can you help me with my stress? And I say, well, I can't help you. You need to help yourself, because we all feel stress in a very different way. And that is what it's all about. And they're quite taken aback by that statement. But it is a statement is that we don't know our own stress and we don't understand it. And we just say we're stressed, but, the lack of understanding. So I had a calling, having been in corporate business for many, many years. I had a calling, and the calling was I happened to open up Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning book. And I read the book, and I got to the next part of it, and I thought, this is absolutely so real. This is down to the core, and this is what I know that I can help other people with, because I've been through life. And life has had its ups and downs. I've also been a bit naughty along the line. And I need to know how to understand and help other people in terms of to try and understand what they're going through and how awesome life is. Yes. It's not all dark, but it's the light. And I never call bad. I always talk about the word bitter. So we either have good or we have bitter. So when it comes to stress, we also have to have stress. Otherwise, we'd not be able to do what we need to do when we're in the game reserve, for example, and there's a big elephant in front of us. And do we freeze or do we put the vehicle into reverse and go? What do we do? So that's the adrenaline taking over. And based on that, it's really understanding what it's about. Is it the balance of stress? Is it the fight? Is it the flight, or the simple freeze? And unfortunately, a lot of people are freezing. So the fighting and the flighting is, I call, the internal conflict. But the freeze is where the physiological simply takes over and says, Sean, no. And you just don't know what to do. So, based on that, that is what it's all about. And then we have this incredible new age of technology. And hence your introduction to Technostressology. And it's just a fancy word, quite honestly. But the word Technostressology came about the technostress side of things, which is techno, which in Greek is art. And stress, we know what stress is. It's a phenomenon of stress and various other aspects. And ology is the study. So it's a study of technostress. That's what it's about. But technostress, in the way that I put it together, in Technostressology, which at the moment is trademarked and about to be trademark registered, encompasses techno addiction and encompasses technopsychotherapy. And those are all the aspects. So we have technostress, techno-addiction, and techno-psychotherapy, which all rolls up at the end of the day based on technology. But technology is so amazing, and we can talk about that as we go along.
Yes. Can I ask you, did you roll into this whole Technostressology from a personal point of view? Was that your, how you rolled into it? Is there a personal experience that goes with that? Or is it from more professional experience?
Right. So technical experience. My wife is a maths teacher, and she is one of those who likes to do things perfectly and correctly and on time. And I noticed that she went onto the computer and the little circle was going around and she get frustrated. When's this going to happen? When we're going to get internet, and the internet doesn't work properly and it's down, and what's happening? All this techno frustration and hitting the wrong buttons and wondering what's going on. And that is how I became to techno stress. I thought that there must be a way to help. Yes. And, the way to help is always you shout out, can I help? But do you internalize and do you go and look at troubleshooting and Google that, for example, and say, what, in terms of what I can do troubleshooting, what can I do to fix it? But we don't. We externalize and we shout out to everybody what's happening. And in her particular case, she was my inspiration for trying to help people in terms of dealing with their stress, frustration, but technologically orientated.
That's interesting. I found that very interesting. So it's thanks to your wife that we actually have you now as an expert in stress technology, which is it's amazing.
Absolutely.
Now,
yes, absolutely.
Can I ask you, does high tech, really cause high stress? What is your point of view in that?
When Craig Broad in 1984 told us, and in his book Techno Stress, that was 1984, and we've advanced a lot. We're now in 2018, almost in 2019, and we've really grown exponentially in terms of techno stressology, grown of tech where it is today, where we have virtual reality knocking on our door for us even going to Mars, all of those wonderful things. So yes, it was the foundation of what it was, but now we've grown so exponentially. So does high tech, so let's call high tech in terms of, we're at high tech right now. We're at the highest kind of forms of where we need to be, especially with artificial intelligence, AI coming onto board. So high tech is certainly there. So does high tech cause high stress? So high stress could be caused, but I don't believe it's to the magnitude that it maybe was in 1984. And I think that it has grown. We have techno stress with us all the time, but techno stress is really something simple in terms of coping and management. Be aware of it, Google it, and look for the troubleshooting and explain it to other people and say, I can't do this. I'm really struggling. And we think we can do it. Men are like this. We don't read the instruction book, but generally nobody reads the instruction book. And that is the exact problem. So we get a new device. We say, can we download everything else on our device? But we don't read the instruction book. We don't see how the guys doing it for us actually doing it. And that's the problem. So does high tech? Yes, it is high tech. It's awesome. It's wonderful. And it does cause high tech if we don't know how to read the manual.
Yes. And I believe you work more in the medical field than any other field. Is there more high tech in that, in that area and more high stress then? Do you think there's, in the medical, because all the machinery, all the technology, there've never been so many technologies for treatments, for everything. So is that an area where there's even more high stress because of the high technology?
There is a lot of high stress in that area because remember, we're dealing with a human being. Where accuracy to a point of a millimeter is so very important. Absolutely it is. And I found one of the techno stress problems are electronic notes, electronic medical notes, where the doctor has been saying to me, in the older days, I used to write notes and I could process this in my mind. Now I have to type the note, and it doesn't have the same effect of the way that I'm busy working through a particular diagnosis, and it doesn't stimulate other aspects of exploration. And yes, I found that electronic notes taking is in fact quite stressful, to the point that even some doctors are going backwards and actually writing notes and then loading up the notes. Yes, it's a double thing, but by the time that they do it twice, they actually really understand the diagnosis, and they might even send a patient for additional investigations. So that's just one area. In terms of using the technology, it is very difficult to understand all the technology. One of the promotions at the moment is use ultrasound. And
Yes.
ultrasound is obviously helping dramatically, especially in emergency medicine situations in the ED, where through an ultrasound, you have a quicker diagnosis and a more accurate diagnosis. Whereas before you'd have to go through all of these things. So that is amazing that you can actually see it and do it, but you need to know how to use that ultrasound machine to perfection. And that ultrasound machine can, being able to learn it, can take anything up to about 6 months to a year to actually understand, to really see behind what you're really seeing. So yes, that does have. Also in terms of physicians in the operating room, in the OR, some of that technology is extremely daunting and is very difficult to understand. And you need a lot of experience to do that. So when we had the old days of the heart transplant, and look at where we are with organ transplants generally today, is amazing. So it is that balance, and there's a lot of practice that is required by the surgeon or whoever is going to be using that technology. So they are, they say, they are scared of the technology. They're scared they're going to make a mistake. If it's a laser, you cannot be inaccurate with a laser. Okay, if you're inaccurate with a laser, that is the end of it, especially if you're doing eyes, for example. So yes, it is quite a lot of techno stress, but a lot of that technology is becoming amazingly another doctor's aid.
Yes, I believe. And if I ask you about your technostressology, and I would, want to actually like giving a tip to the audience, at this moment, what regarding the technostress, what would be a tip from you to give to our audience about that high tech causing high stress? What would be a tip to bring down the stress? Is there anything you can advise, like a basic tip or something that you really work on with people?
Yes, I say to them, be aware of what you're going through. Did you read the manual? Do you know that if there's a problem that you can Google absolutely anything in terms of troubleshooting, and even print out the troubleshooting card, which is literally 3 pages, and have that next to you, so that next time that you have a problem, you can actually write it down and you can add up and see where your problems are. So I encourage them to have what I call a techno logbook, where the troubleshooting logbook, and you can actually write down and identify, I'm actually really struggling. Let's say in Excel, I don't know how to do the formulas. So by looking at it again and practicing before you're doing the actual thing and losing the data, which you think you're going to lose, you can always recover data. So looking at that, I would say read the guides. When you get a new mobile device, read the guide, practice the guide, and don't go live until you're ready. And that's really a simple, easy tip. Just look at the instructions.
It's a very simple tip. It's actually something that you wouldn't even think of. I would like to ask you, would you say a physiological tip like breathing or, calm down, but this is actually a really practical, simple tip, which we don't even think of.
Well, what happens is that we've now got into a state of absolute anxiety when something goes wrong on the computer or on the device. So we don't know what to do. So we start to freeze. So the quickest way to stop freezing and sweating or perspiring is to actually just go and look at the troubleshooting. So that relaxation of changing the mind, looking out the window, getting up from your chair is the best way. We call it the relaxation response.
Yes.
Okay, and that relaxation response should always happen. So if you really want to understand what's happening, just walk away. Don't touch the computer. Don't, just walk away. And what's going to happen is you're going to get back and you've gone through this process and you come back, you've got a dark screen, you have to reload and reboot. And rebooting is the secret to technology. Most things need to be rebooted. So from that point of view, to de-stress, relax, come back, switch off and reboot. And you'll find that, and just by rebooting, you're rebooting your brain. Reboot the brain, reboot the device, and you're back online.
I agree. It is actually interesting because rebooting, like you say, I do that with my clients too. It's like taking a little bit of a helicopter view or just a bit of a distance to, you know, we are so used to be in the thing. So it's quite interesting. How do you think, Sean, how do you think this whole thing is going to evolve? Because is it going to get worse? Is in your opinion?
No, it's not going to get worse. In fact, we're going to understand technology far better. If we particularly look at millennials for the moment, and we say to them, what is the future of millennials in terms of technology? Where are we with the baby boomers? The baby boomers are going to be absolutely incredible because they're born into this. They understand it. This is their environment. And they will become so understanding of what it is. And at the age of 4, as you well know, Danielle, is the age where we all learn. And based on that, it's going to be into our DNA at 4 years old. So I see this as techno-stress is going to always be there, but it'll decrease because they'll start learning about understanding and awareness and all of those things.
Can I ask you, because I know you also specialized in techno addiction. Are you not involved? I thought you were involved in that too. So is it not dangerous for that generation that you just talked about to become techno-addicted?
Well, techno-addiction, there are various perceptions of what techno-addiction can or isn't. And there are many books written about addiction being similar to a craving cycle of normal or other addictions other than technological. But there is one, for example, gambling addiction, which is very similar in gambling addiction being techno or otherwise, which is similar. So the addictive personality of the gambler will certainly be there. And we also have what we call in trading in shares today. Trading in shares today is just, I call, a legal excuse for people to gamble, okay, with big money. And they just say, well, it's not an addiction, but you know, it's this and that. That is an addiction. That is a gambling addiction. You've got big money, big things at stake. You're not going to move away from your desk. You're going to check out every quote and what's going on and all that. That's an addiction. So that is all part of their personality. So it depends on the personality of the person. If they have an addictive personality, it's going to be the same with everything. And as I said, there are many books written about it, but it is what, you know, in terms of addictions, there is a host of them. There's an internet addiction, but it's excess of doing what you need to do.
Yes.
The part that scares me most about addictions is what I call social media addictions, which social media addictions to me are really, really troublesome on the basis that Facebook is a wonderful way to communicate. But as we well know, we can only have 150 relationships or friends. And if we have more than 150 relationships, we're not going to be able to know what's happening. There are false elements of Facebook that we are showing. We only want to show the good. We never want to show the bad. We tend to social isolate. We tend to do all of these things. So all of that in terms of addiction is, I'm worried that's not really the word addiction. I've been trying to find another word, is that we're obsessed with trying to be somebody we're not. And those people who struggle with self-esteem, self-confidence, they're going to feed into our called social media addiction. And that's what my concern is. So I'm moving away from techno addiction to what I call social media addiction. To me, or obsession is rather what I'm concerned about right now.
Yeah, because I'm glad you talk about the self-worth and the self-esteem, because I see it a lot in my practice. People are comparing themselves more and more, you know, through social media. I said in the other interview the other day, you know, I talked about, you know, how it's a mental trap to compare yourself on social media with others. What are they doing? Before, we only had our neighbors. We only had our family to compare ourselves with. We only had our friends at school. Now we have a global exposure and we can compare ourselves with everybody. And everybody seems to have a blast of a time and everybody seems to be happy on the outside, but we don't see the hurt on the inside. That's not on Facebook. You don't see
it's
on
not
social
on
media. You see,
no.
So I can see in my practice, and that's why I'm asking, you know, that addiction to, you call it social media, and I agree, it's a problem. It is becoming a problem, and I think we have to be really aware with what we do on Facebook and really plan what we do on Facebook. And only go in there for about a few minutes, not stay there for hours and hours. People, it's an interesting topic, social media. But Sean, just to go further, in your work, what is your experience? What is the most stressful for the moment for people? What is the biggest stress in this high technology society? Is it like you said about how the computer works? Are there other daily things that you find is really stressful?
Yes, keeping up to date with software technology. It's forever changing. And I think that is the biggest stress that people have. They're trying to always be one step ahead. And in fact, it changes daily. I research daily, and I get daily different things about, or articles about what's happening in the techno world that are in fact researchers that are not even yet published or tested. And that is a major concern. So everybody's trying to buy and get the new latest device. So with the Apple Watch Series 4 coming out, which has got an ECG included in it, we want to know when it's coming out. But do we really know how we're going to use it? Do we really know and understand it? But we have to be and have to have it. But are we going to read the instruction book? Are we really going to understand it? So the biggest stress in terms of organizations is the upgrading and updating of software, because unfortunately, the computer programmers, the guys who write the programs for the software for an organization, do not actually understand what is required. What is the outcome? What does the user actually require? So they will do all the background and all the various formulas, but they're not an actual, the user. And that is our biggest problem, is that by the time the user in the organization comes to use the software package that has been upgraded, they fumble. But they know they have to do it. Haven't got another choice, and they're too scared to ask. But the biggest problem today is the changing of technology. It changes daily. But I think if we keep to our status, our balance of what we understand, and then incorporate, and we say we don't understand, we have to say no. And people in technology never say no. They always say, bring it on. Let me see, I can do it. You can't, we can't. We're not capable of doing that. Just manage one thing at a time, and it's like change gradually, and know that the change is meaningful and you really understand it.
Wow. Is there any symptom that you would say is like a sign about the fact that you have high stress with that technology? Is there something that you see a lot in your clients, and your one symptom?
One symptom I couldn't say, but what I do is I always do an assessment when I walk into an organization, and I look at the lighting, I look at the ergonomics of what chairs they're sitting on, I go through all the senses of smell and all of that, and if that's already a problem, I know there's going to be a problem. For example, if you have bad lighting and bad smell and let's call it a bitter environment, you're going to write a bad email. Okay, and that's going to come out. So your mood is going to be negative. Or you've come from home and you've had a really stressful time in getting there, you've got a bad day, and all these things are going to happen. Things are going to go wrong, because they are going to go wrong, because you're focusing on what's going to go wrong. Anticipatory anxiety, those kind of things you're going to focus on. So is there a symptom? The symptom is beware of the environment. If the environment is bad, rather go home, rather walk away and go and relax.
Yes. Wow. I find that, you approach things from such a different way than when we used to. I really like talking to you about this. Now, Sean, what about like you said, the next generation? What about these children? Do you have any experience with like the teenagers or the younger people? Any experience there, or are you mostly experienced with adults?
Well, interesting enough, my wife being a teacher, again, teaching extra mathematics, I've found that in terms of the way that she treats her pupils, that she works with them and understands them and what they're going through as the teenagers. Not easy being a teenager today. And basically understanding their problems, which they can verbalize with. So with her, they have to verbalize because they're not allowed the device in the class. And that's quite challenging because they're finding that they're not able to verbalize just by talking, but by talking, their tongue loosens up, for want of a better word. So very often we find that what is stressful for them is they may be sitting in the back of a motor car, a brother or sister or friend, and they're busy WhatsApping each other, but they're not actually communicating. Another thing is if we're using WhatsApp, while we're WhatsApping, typing, why don't we just use the voicemail? The voicemail is amazing. Open up the voicemail and you can hear, I would hear your voice, Danielle, and say, gee whiz, but I can hear inside of your voice if you're for real. If you're for real. So with Facebook, once again, you're typing and showing photographs, but there's nothing better than a voice to understand. And you know if that person is real, or they say, how are you feeling today? And you just by hearing that is the sounds that you want to hear. So in terms of that, and the second part is my grandson is 2 years old, and he knows the remote on the TV. He knows exactly which channel to put it on. He knows it all because his little mind is so sharp, but he has nothing else to distract him. He can learn that all day long. So yes, they will become so amazingly familiar with technology because it's with them all the time. Yes. They've got nothing else to distract them. So they must be experts in what they're doing.
Yes. Oh, I love it when I didn't know you had you were already a grandfather. Congratulations. I love it.
Thank you.
And still such a mission that you have, Sean. Amazing, hey? We as grandparents, yes. I'm a grandmother as well. As grandparents, we do it almost for the next generation to come. It's like our mission to, to raise that awareness for, for the next generations to come. I love that. Now, we're coming to the end of the interview. Would you have like one sentence, one quote, something from your heart that you would like to add to this interview for the audience, whether it's, as I say, a quote, something that you believe in, something, maybe about Frankel, I don't know, if there's anything there, that one thing that you would, want to say to our audience?
Be passionate about life. Do lateral thinking, meet the challenges, work on your strengths and opportunities, and the rest will follow.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. I think that's an amazing finishing touch for a wonderful interview. Thank you, Sean. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And I just want to say to our viewers, you can go to the website and, you will have all the other interviews. You can have replays. Please, and join in for all our interviews, which are all on the topic of, does high tech cause high stress? Thank you, Sean Waters from Johannesburg. We really appreciate your contribution, and I'm sure we'll stay in contact. Thank you so much, Sean. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.